How you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. Today we're looking at DC Comics, the Omega Man. This is issue number 1. Look at this cover. This is DC's new format. DC was experimenting with other ways of producing comics, using other paper and printing techniques, and they called this the new format. This was direct market, meaning it only went to comic book stores. I don't know what everybody knows, but back when I was a kid, you could go to like 7-Eleven and even Play World and newsstands and convenience stores and candy stores and buy comic books. And the direct market was relatively new, meaning stores that just sold comic books. I know nowadays you don't see comic books anywhere else, but only in comic book stores. But back then, comic book stores were the rarity. And a comic book store would buy the comics and then sell them, whereas a newsstand, you would get like a stack of comics. They didn't even order what they wanted. The distributors would give whatever titles they wanted, and then the newsstands would send back whatever didn't sell. They would get a credit, and then they would get, so there was no risk to the 7-Elevens, whereas the comic book stores bought it. So if this was $1, the comic book store would pay 50 cents for this and then sell it for $1, make 50 cents an issue profit. I don't know what the profit. I think it was the same profit in a newsstand, but you know, there was really no risk. I think they laid out the initial investment for the first batch of comics, and then as they went. So comic books were but they had to return them. That's why you saw a lot of comics with the ripped covers. That's how they got credit. But anyway, I'm already on a tangent when I'm talking about this. But what this was DC Comics wanted to deal with direct market, and it was more profitable for DC. So you know, John Longbox comic book store would order 20 copies of Omega Man. I bought them. DC didn't have to worry about returns or credits or anything like that. So it was just more preferable for DC. Okay, so that's what this is. And then next thing you know, the newsstand died out and all comic books became direct market. So so this is different paper, high quality paper. And I think the regular comics were 75 cents at the time, but this was $1 because better printing, better color, and more pages. So let's open it up now after 2 minutes of babbling. Okay, what is this? Models? Oh, these are pretty cool. Oh yeah, look at this. These are pretty cool models. I never had patience as a kid to do models and paint them. Nowadays, as I get older, it's something I'm trying, but I still don't claim to be any good. All right, so let's look at the indicia. 1983. Oh, cool. So this is April 1983. And this is the direct market. This is when it actually came out. Usually when it had a date, that was the date to return them. But in the direct market comics, that meaning they didn't go to newsstands, pretty much from 1982 on or 1983 on, that was the month they came out. So that was a little lesser known comic book detail. And this is called the splash page because I'm kind of like introducing these terms because I've been getting a lot of subscribers. So this is the splash page. The splash page is one panel, and it's usually the first page of the comic, although it doesn't have to be. And the white around here, this is called the gutter. So that's what separates the panels. Okay, let's look at the credits. We got Roger Slipher is the writer, and Keith Giffen is the artist. And it's funny because I remember at the time, I remember hating Keith Giffen, and now I'm looking back at some of my favorite comics, and is Keith Giffen. It's funny how your memory plays tricks, or you think you hate the guy, then you're like, wait a minute, I like that comic. Okay, I guess I like the guy. But there's Keith Giffen. He did a great run on Legion of Superheroes. He was the writer on the Justice League through like the late 80s, 90s. You know, the Goofy League run by Maxwell Lord. You know, so Keith Giffen is a big deal. This Roger Slipher, I don't really know who he is other than he wrote this comic. And then Mike DiCarlo is the inker. I love Mike DiCarlo's inkers. He's also a penciler, but he's also an inker. Just something about him. And I could always tell when he's writing. He makes these like almost like rectangular eyes. John Costanza, he worked for DC and Marvel. He was a letterer for both companies for a long time. It's even with Petra Goldberg. She did colors, and I think this is old school colors with pen and ink. The reason I could tell is because there's no gradations. The computer allows for real subtle. Like, look at that. You see how the in the clouds you got that purple goes into the blue, and it just ends in the next one. If computers, it would what's the word, blend better, it would smear better, it would have subtle gradations. So this is old pen and ink. This is old school. And this team was created by Marv Wolfman and Joe Stanton. Joe Stanton is a classic artist, so I would like to see some art treatments of the Omega Men. And it's funny because the original pitch that Marv Wolfman made was the Omega Men were going to be ghosts. So there were spirits that were coming back to the regular world for, to finish business, for revenge, or whatever it is that spirits, restless dead have to do. But then they kind of worked it into space aliens. And that would have been an interesting comic. So here we have, these are Citadel warriors. Okay, what's the setting? The setting of the Omega Men is the Vega system. And the Vega system is like the most dangerous place in the Milky Way. There's 25 habitable planets, and they're all like at various stages of conflict with each other. Some of them are allies, but some of them are at war, and some of them can't stand each other, but whatever. There's various political alliances. Just imagine that, 25 planets. So the Omega system, it was originally Okara, I think, was the original planet, and Euphorix. And Okara were like big warrior people, and Euphorix were like magical science people. And the, I forget which one, but the Scions, they were like lizard-based beings. That, I was going to say like Vulcans, but Vulcans weren't nasty. The Scions were just like unscrupulous scientists, and they didn't care. They just did whatever cruel experiments tickled their fancy, and they cloned and genetically twisted and populated the Vegan system with all of these different races. So they're not natural. I think 2 races are originally evolved, and the rest were created by the Scions. And of course, they all went to war with each other. Now, before I turn the page, I just got to explain a little bit about the religion of the Vegan system. There's the goddess Zal, and she looks like Starfire from the Teen Titans, and that's no coincidence, and I'll explain that later. So she had 2 sons. One was the nameless one, and the other one, that's gonna drive me crazy, whatever his name was. But one was evil, one was good, and the evil one went and gave himself to the Scions, and they cloned him, and they made the Citadel. And the Citadel are like the Empire. They're just evil beings, and they're all like clones. And it's funny because I think, because this is 1983, the movie Empire Strikes Back came out. I don't think people knew that the Stormtroopers were clones or anything, so it was just a coincidence. But they were an army of clones from the demigod son of the goddess Zal, and they went out and conquered and oppressed and just made life hell for the 25 different planets of the Vega system. And what are the Omega Men? They're rebels. So this is Tigor. How horrible is that? From Karna, and he's like the last male, and later on they find the last female of his race, and he's got nothing to lose. He could transform. He's like a bipedal tiger guy, but he could transform into this and then fight. And this is Nimbus. Nimbus is like the Scions experimented on a Branx warrior and removed his soul. So he's like a spirit that never died, a living soul. So he's just like this spiritual being. And this is one of the Citadel warriors, and they're just attacking them and just defeating them. So just kind of gory. Remember, this went to the direct market. If you notice, there's no Comics Code Authority on this. So, ripping off limbs, blood flying all over the place. It could be a little gory. It could be a little adult, meaning like sex. But I don't remember any of that at this point. But ripping limbs off, yeah, that's all good. So this is Callista, Primus, and Demona, and that's Brood, and I think that's Harpus. And they are at plus Nimbus and Tigor. These are the Omega Men, and they are just like ragtag fugitive fleet of rebels that are fighting against the Citadel. It's pretty much the same exact premise as Marvel's Micronauts, which was coming out around the same time, and that was, if you ask me, that was just completely inspired by Star Wars. Star Wars was a phenomenon. Everything was inspired by Star Wars at the time. So we have, the Citadel's the Empire, and blah, blah, blah. So here they go. They go in, and they're going to take out this Citadel outpost. And that's what they're doing. They're going in. And Keith Gifford, he has like a really, if I just see Keith Gifford drawing by himself, I don't really like his art, but he works with inkers that really make it. So like his stuff in the Legion of Superheroes. Later on, when he did most of the art in inking by himself, it just something about it. It was just like too abstract. And I could see traces of his abstract style in this, but great. What's his name? DiCarlo really is a good inker for him. So look. See, you can see the panel separating thing. And when you read comics, I know this is getting basic. You start here and you make like a Z. And I know my sister, my little sister, she said she hated when her son wanted her to read him comics because she didn't know what order and the stories didn't make sense. And I thought that was a weird comic at the time until I started this channel and I was really like examining the order of comic book panels. Like, okay, I could see that. But also within each panel, you know, you read top to bottom, but like, so of course you read this first, and then you read this, and this, and this, this, and the timing inside of a comic is weird because it's kind of like whatever you read happens first. So even though this is one panel, this guy happens first, and then all this happens. If you read Understanding Comics by Scott McCloud, he does a really good explanation of stuff I never really thought of. Like, your brain picks it up, but you don't consciously think about it. But it makes sense when you read that stuff, like, here, take this. And the other guy goes, oh, thank you. And it means he's giving you he's giving the other character something first, and then the other guy's receiving it after the other guy says it, even though it's in one panel. It's kind of hard to explain, but I think you know what I'm talking about. Look at this, Dungeons & Dragons fantasy adventure game. What is this? This is the basic set. I know Dungeons & Dragons has a big renaissance right now, but at this time, Dungeons & Dragons had like peaks and valleys. At this point, Dungeons & Dragons was very popular, and then during the 90s, it kind of disappeared again. So this is 1983. This is around when I started getting into Dungeons & Dragons, during this high point. And we have some Frank Frazetta comics. And the Citadel is getting pissed off because here are the Omega Men just taunting them and attacking them. And look at Brood over here. I always like that. The big gigantic hulking guy. Tygar's in his primitive form, and that's Primus. He has, like, you know, to go with the name Primus, he has mental attacks and super charisma and like telekinesis. And here they are. Look at that. Just gory. And Brood is just a brute. I'm saying Brood. His name is Brute. Is just smashing everything. And I always talk about the Pinocchio, but he's, you know, these are exceptions because they are their alien race, so they don't want to be human. They are the equivalent of human because, you know, they're typical of their race. And this is Harpus just slash. Look at this. She's ripping things apart. He's using his mental abilities, and Nimbus is like. I have kind of like a problem with Nimbus because he has like vaguely defined powers, just like Raven in the Teen Titans, if you read the comics. I never saw the cartoons. But like, powers were so bizarrely defined that I couldn't understand exactly what they did. And this is Calista. She's like a sorceress, so she's doing spells on them. So yeah, magic and science. But that's just like Star Wars, because Obi-Wan Kenobi was a space wizard. And now they're just wrapping up the battle. And they keep one guy alive because they need to... You know, this is space war. This is attacking. They're not superheroes. They're revolutionaries. They're killing these Citadel warriors. You know, but they leave one alive because they need to get information from him. And here is Tiger trying to intimidate him. He's just pretty much eating parts of his friends, you know, or cohorts in front of him. Like, and I'm going to do that. No, I'm not going to talk. I'm going to talk. And she's detecting whether or not he's telling the truth, and he's using his spiritual powers to vaguely do whatever the hell he does. And here they got their information, and now they're having like a council. And of course, Tiger, Primus and Tiger were the two original ones. And here they talked about the Teen Titans and the superheroes on Earth, because they're talking that they're on their own because the Citadel and the Spider Guild which is another political force in this system, this Vega system, orbiting the star system. They have a deal with the Guardians of the Universe, the people who power up the Green Lanterns, to leave Vega alone. So there will not be Green Lantern and Hal Jordan and all those guys coming in and restoring order, because the Vega system is off limit. You got to have that, otherwise the Green Lanterns would just solve all the problems, and there you go. So you need to have some sort of explanation why the Green Lanterns don't show up. And they already met the Teen Titans. Why? Because Coriander is the princess of Tamarand, one of the planets in Vega. And she was captured by the Gordian slavers, which are like a reptilian race that are related to the Scions. And they just, space slavers. They just go around and they capture everybody. And since she was the princess, she was worth a lot of money. They captured her and her sister, Coriander. So there's Comandar and Coriander, Starfire and Blackfire. And they were trapped. They fought back, and she freed herself on Earth. And that's what brought the Teen Titans together, was they fought the Gordian slaves. So this comic, the Omega Men, is like, you know, the brother comic or the sister comic to Teen Titans. Both were created by Marv Wolfman, and then they have teammates that are brother and sister. And here's this stupid Bubble Yum ad that I don't know why I was just irrationally hated this as a kid. I don't know why, it's just stupid. And here we have Primus and Callista, you know, at a hard day's work, you know, they're talking to, and she's saying, you better watch out for Tigor. He's out after your position. Of course, Tigor is from the planet Karn, and you know, he's a tiger beast. He wants a more hands-on, let's kill everybody approach. Well, Primus is more strategic. We can't just go out and fight the Citadel. We got a plan, and Tigor's too impatient for that. So there you go. That's what this couple is discussing before they go to bed. And the next morning, there's a banquet, and they want to go to Brute's planet and get more of Brute's people. And Brute's like, yeah, you know, my people we're super strong, we're invulnerable, but they are worthless in a fight because they're pacifists. He says, I was raised by the warlords to fight, so I never really got their philosophy. So, you know, that's why I'm willing to fight. And that's what they're talking about. Hey, Primus, we're going to go down to Brute's planet and grab some of Brute's people. And Brute's like, all right, you know, let me go on. So here they fly down, and Brute's planet is kind of peaceful. You know, it's not in chaos and destruction like the rest of the world, like what's going on. And he tells them, like, the secret shame. Like, we're all pacifists. We don't fight, not even in our self-defense. And every year, or every month, I forget, periodically, I'll just say, because I don't remember the exact time period, they give up 12 babies to the Gordians, and then the Gordians, you know, sell them and train them by the warlords to fight. So they give up their own children as a sacrifice for peace. And the rest, you know, so the Gordians, you know, one of Brute's people is worth like a battalion. So, you know, whenever they get the 12 and train them and whatever, they get in a powerhouse team. So they let this planet just breed and be peaceful because they know, first off, they know they're not going to rebel. Second off, let them populate. The more they populate, the more warriors we're going to get. It's kind of, I don't like them, you know, just giving up their children when they could easily beat the Citadel. Because look at them, they're gigantic monsters, you know. Each one of them is like the equivalent of Ben Grimm. So he's like, you do this, you know, you let them plunder your world's resources, you let them take your children. He's like, yeah, we're pacifists. And they're like kind of like disgusted with them. And Brute's like, I told you. And while this is going on, Brute can't take it anymore, and he attacked. He attacked some of the Gordians, and then they launched like a missile and killed and destroyed an entire city of Brute's people. And he's like, that's why we don't fight. You know, we give up a couple children, or we lose thousands of us whenever they fight. So ta-da! That's the initial story of the Vega Man. And here's Roger Silver writing up how he got to the comic, the origins of the comic. And flipping pages over, and here we got Marvel, DC subscriptions. Here's some more artwork. Oh, this is when. Okay, I see now. Okay, I jumped ahead. This is the mother of one of the kids saying, "Please don't take my child." And they're like, "You know the deal. Your leaders could see." It's like, "Don't worry, we'll make another kid." Blah blah blah. Now Brute's like, you're not going to take the kid. And he goes to hit him with the gun, and Brute's like, I'm more powerful than you. He's like, you give up some of your children for peace. He's like, you don't know, I'm different. He's like, how are you different? He goes, I'm very different. Look, he just rips him in half, and they just shoot at Brute, and he's just, like I said, they're all invulnerable. He goes, Brute is like a mountain. Brute, stop. it's the violation of our sacred pact. This is a sacrilege. You can't do this. And he's like, I got your kid back. And they're like, we don't, you know, now there's going to be violence. What's going to happen? And here's where they nuke the city. So I jumped ahead. I'm sorry about that. So here they drop like a small tactical contained nuke and just take out so many of these brutes. And that's a big feat because these guys are like nearly invulnerable. I got a little dog here. I hate that. So like now Brute, they're telling Brute, his own people are telling him to leave. Like you got to leave him. You're trouble. You're causing problems. And they get back onto their ship and they fly away. And here they're dealing with the anguish of what one of their own teammates have come. And Brute was like, I told you not to go to my people. They're not going to help. So there you go. This is the first issue. I thought this was a very good issue, a very good series, rather. It was very shocking in that characters died. I'm not going to tell you who died, but a lot of the, you know, nobody was safe. It was like the Game of Thrones of comics. You know, major characters were killed. New people joined. You liked the new people. Some of them died. The leadership changed. It was. I remember reading this like, wow. You know, I can't believe this X character died. I can't believe this character died. I can't believe this character betrayed them. You know, it was pretty shocking, I thought, at the time, because none of the Avengers were going to die. You knew that. None of the Fantastic Four were going to die. Spider-Man was never going to die. But these were made to be like, I don't want to say expendable because that makes them sound worthless, but each character was cool and had a personality and had a power set and had like a philosophy, so that when they did die, it was shocking. You know, so there you go. I really like this. I recommend this. This was fun. And I only got this because I read the Teen Titans. I loved it so much, and they kept talking about this. I didn't buy this when it first came out. I think it was like up to issue 10 or so before I went and got the back issues. And at this point, there were comic book stores, so it was pretty easy to get back issues. So there you go. That's the Omega Man. I recommend this. All right? I'll see you tomorrow with another video. Bye-bye.